Hey everybody, it's Strict9 with Strict9 GP, and welcome to another episode of my Out of the Park Baseball 19 GM Challenge with the Reds. We're on episode 30. I went ahead and if you got a chance to see the last episode, we made it to Game 7 of that League Championship Series against the Braves, but fell short. Braves managed to win and go on to the World Series. I've gone ahead and simmed through until we're just now starting the free agent signing period, and I'm going to start off looking at, well, first screen, you can see here, how the playoffs ended, and then we'll look at the offseason awards, and then we'll start looking at this team and looking at the holes we have to fill this offseason and some possibilities we may have with free agents. I might go through and make some offers this episode and get started on that road. Don't know if we'll sim ahead to maybe the Rule 5 draft, but we'll see. We'll see how it goes. I'll just go ahead and start off with the playoffs first. Atlanta made it to the World Series, but Houston pretty much owned them in 5 games to win it. So looking now at the history in the last few years, that's Atlanta. They back-to-back World Series, but Houston prevailed this year, and Houston's actually won it now. They won it in 2017, so that was before we started simming. So they've won 2 World Series in the last 5 seasons, so pretty good for them. But the Braves really starting to build a good contender there in this sim and in real life. I mean, they're a pretty good team right now. But that's how the playoffs ended, and I'm going to go ahead and call up the off-season awards, and let me see where we get, how far back we have to go to that. Well, I always have a hard time. I should probably look it up from the history, but here we go. So first things first, we'll look at the Gold Glove winners in the American League. Sanchez is really doing a great job in this playthrough. You look at his offensive numbers since I started simming, which was the 2018 season. He's had 4 solid offensive years there. Matt Chapman, third baseman from Oakland. This guy is offensively struggling a little bit in this playthrough. A lot of strikeouts, but he has some power. Probably not the player in the playthrough offensively that he is in real life. But Billy Hamilton also got a nod there. That's his second career Gold Glove. But man, he had a great year last year. It was great to see that for him. Led the league in stolen bases again at 59. Got a full season in at Oakland, 669 at-bats, which also led the league. So for his career now, he's up to 474 stolen bases. I don't know if he's a free agent right now. I don't know if he'll sign with another team that'll give him a full, to give him that full-time center field job. Give him a few more seasons starting, and he might reach some pretty high stolen base numbers for his career. And then you had Mike Trout, Mookie Betts, some Matt Olson, another good defensive player from Oakland. So no big surprises there. And then for the National League, no Reds made the team, but Arenado, Acuna, Hayward again for the Cubs. That's how many is that for him? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 Gold Glove awards, both in real life, I guess, and this sim. And so reliever of the year went to Zach Britton, who didn't lead the league in saves, but for the American League, but he had a great year. 2.9 wins above replacement. That's pretty high. Usually when you get to about 3 on the wins above replacement, that's pretty good for a closer or a reliever. So he had a good year. Claudio was second, Coda Glover third. And then for the National League, it went to Edwin Diaz for the Cubs. Even though he wasn't their number 1 closer, just had a sensational overall year. And I'm really surprised that he's not their closer. I think he should be. He had a 3.1 wins above replacement, so he was well above the number I was talking about. One of the things that really impresses me with him is the K per 9 innings. He had 106 strikeouts in 74 and 2/3 innings and a WHIP of .92. So they really need to use him as the closer, I would think. But no, let's see. Oh, we did have Chad Green got some votes here for the reliever of the year, and he was runner up in 2020. So not too bad for him. Even though wasn't too happy with Green's performance in the playoffs, but I guess maybe he just had a bad run. I'm feeling a little bit better about him going into the offseason. Now, the Platinum Stick Award winners in the American League, no no surprises. Gary Sanchez, Rowdy Tellez, who had 55 home runs. Vladimir Guerrero, who's now at 22, he's becoming a quick superstar in the league. Kyle Tucker, another guy from Houston, who's becoming a quick superstar. And then for the National League, do we have any Reds? No. Brandon Woodruff, pitcher for Phillies. Phillies had a couple guys here. Three, actually. Bryce Harper and Valentin, who's looking really good in this playthrough. He's kind of come out of nowhere and really turning into back-to-back solid offensive years for Philadelphia. And when I started the sim, he was in AAA, and looks like history-wise, he was a former drafted by the Dodgers in 2012. So he's been around for a while. It took him a little bit of time to finally make it, but he's doing a good job there so far. And then Rookie of the Year in the American League went to Briones, who was an independent or international free agent, a guy that I had looked at, but he's a first baseman and didn't want to give him the money that he was after, but definitely a good signing for Detroit. And then in the National League, it went to Justin Ellison for the Braves. This guy, he had a pretty solid rookie year. I don't expect him to repeat on that because his individual ratings are pretty slim. I think that was probably just a fluke. He probably got some play time on that Braves team because of injuries. And no Reds showed up there on that. And I think that's kind of I said this before, I think, in the last episode. I'm not sure what's going on, but for some reason, I think Taylor Trammell should still be considered a rookie. But, yeah, I mean, he didn't have the plate appearances, or I think it's, 160 plate appearances that will kind of disqualify you for the Rookie of the Year. So I'm or at least that's the figure you have to get to be considered a rookie. And so I'm not really sure why he wasn't considered a rookie last year. And I think he would have easily been the Rookie of the Year if that wasn't whatever the glitch is that kept him from being there. I think he would probably have won it easily, hands down. But that's, let me see, was there any other awards to look at? Oh, yeah, the Manager of the Year, American League went to Hinch at Houston. I think he's won that a few times. He's won it 4 years in a row in this playthrough. That's pretty incredible. Having a great run for the Astros. And then in the National League, it went to Joe Madden again, another guy who's he won it in 2019, won it in 2021. So he's won it 3 times overall with the Cubs and 2 times since I've been simming. So Cubs are still a dangerous team in this playthrough. And then Cy Young went to Quintana, which was a big free agent signing a couple years ago for the Blue Jays. He definitely gave them their money's worth last year. Lance McCullers Jr. finished runner-up, which I think is kind of a surprise. And then you have a few like Barrios, Faria, some guys I kind of recognize, but also several closers and relievers showing up on that list. And then in the National League, it went to Thomas Hatch for the Cubs, who kind of a surprise. This guy's just a 3-star pitcher, but he led the league in wins at 16 and ERA at 2.35. Not a bad year, but definitely not a dominant type year from the pitcher either. And I think, yeah, we had nobody else showing up in the award list for the Reds. And then MVP went to Vladimir Guerrero Jr. in the American League, probably first of many if this guy stays healthy. Great overall year for him. Led the league in hits, runs, batting average, and wins above replacement at 9.5. Very solid year, and the guy's just 22. Some other guys to note, Mike Trout finished runner-up. Another great year from him. 52 home runs, 123 RBIs. He just turned 30 in this playthrough, already at 386 home runs. I've said before, I think I could see his numbers kind of playing out Mickey Mantle, kind of in that Mickey Mantle range. He might actually wind up with more hits than Mickey Mantle, not sure, but seems like that's the way his career is turning out. Let's see, anybody else? Jake Bauers, that kind of surprised me. Is he a... So he is a left fielder. He had a pretty decent year, yeah. He's kind of been under my radar for a while. And then in the National League, it went to Cody Bellinger again. This playthrough really likes Cody Bellinger. That's his third time that he's won it. He won it in 18, I believe, 20, and 21 and 20. So back-to-back MVPs from him. Definitely having a little bit better of a, well, quite a bit better of a career in this sim than he is in real life. But gosh, at 25 years old, just turned 26, 235 home runs. He's hit 57, 52, 57, so he's been well over 50 home runs 3 times. Off to a monster start for his career. Bryce Harper finished third. Corey Seager finished a runner-up. But we did have some Reds get some votes here. Taylor Trammell and Cam Gibson got some votes there. Another pretty decent year from him. His average was down, but production was really good. And let's see if there's anybody else. No, that was it. But that's how the awards turned out. We also went through arbitration, and arbitration was a little bit of a bummer because there were a couple guys here who got more than I really wanted to give them, namely Chad Green, $11.25 million. He's signed, I think this should be his last year. He'll be a free agent after the 2022 season. I may just try him one more year as the closer because for the most part, the last 3 years, he's done a good job in the regular season as a closer, but didn't really want to pay him that much money. And then Jesse Winker just got a really high arbitration offer. This guy he's just a 2.5-star player. Offensively, he gives you he usually gives you 300 plus batting average. Last year was kind of an off year for him. He didn't. He started out the year, wasn't going to start a whole lot, and then Almora got injured, and he pretty much had to start. But his defense is shaky. For the most part right now, he's just in that lineup because of the offense. And we've got a couple guys coming up now in the minors who might, when spring training rolls around, might give him a run for his money. So I don't even know if he'll be a starter next year. But I didn't want to get rid of him completely, so I took a gamble on arbitration and kind of lost a little bit. I didn't expect he would get $13 million. But the big story so far for the offseason, by far, is with the first baseman, Joey Votto. And I think it was kind of like I say, that was the bittersweet news, I guess, for the offseason. But he decided to retire, and that really put me in a much better financial situation because he was signed for 3 more years, I think at $25 million a year. And with him retiring, that freed up so much money in that budget. I mean, we've got 62 million right now, projected 72 total available. So definitely, with Votto retiring, really freed up some money. And as always, the biggest areas that we're going to have to improve are going to be starting rotation, and maybe even this year might need to look at a bullpen spot here or there. If I still, and I probably will, stick with Green for at least one more year, I would love to get a 4 or 5 star starting pitcher, and I'll take a look at it again. But the last time I looked, wasn't much out there. So even though I have that money, I don't know if it's going to really do me much good. I think offensively, I'm still pretty happy with where we are. Feliciano just had a tremendous playoff. I don't know if you got a chance to see that. I'll just give you a recap just to show. But his postseason, he hit .432 with 3 home runs, 7 RBIs, which is just phenomenal in the postseason. I decided to let Barnhart go because of the year that Feliciano had. He's just 23. He's a pretty decent. I think he's better than average defensively. His position rating is a pretty healthy 12. He's got a 15 arm out of 20. So I think even though he's like a potential 2.5 star for my scout, only 2 from OSA, I think he brings some pretty good stuff to the table offensively. But then there's this guy who's even better. He's a potential 5-star player from my scout, rated at 2 stars right now. Not as high from OSA, but this is a guy I traded Nicasio for, and just wanted to free up some salary, when I made the trade. And I think those 2 guys are going to battle it out for the starting catcher spot, and so I think I'm really solid going into next season at catcher. The only things I think that really kind of give me some question marks, I kind of like what I'm seeing at the corners in that outfield. Almora, I don't know if he's going to be a great choice to start every day, but he is a great defensive center fielder. Eric Ramirez, another guy who just had a tremendous playoff run. I think with his offensive numbers, especially against righties, you look at that: 14 contact, 15 power, 14 avoid Ks. I think this guy at 25 has some upside. I think he could be a really good starting first baseman offensively. And his defense, first is usually one of those areas on the field where you can kind of fudge it a little bit if you don't have a great defensive first baseman. So I'm not too worried about his defense. But even with his offense, I mean, he's rated I haven't really covered this in a long time, but usually when you see a guy who's fairly young, just starting his career out, and you'll see these ratings here where it's like 13 out of 16 potential, 15 out of 18. In my experience, that usually means that he's got some room to grow, even that he's still in that development stage. So this guy might turn out to be even better in terms of contact and power. So I like the way he looks. And then Senzel's definitely got this starting job at third. Simmons is signed for another year at least. He's got a vesting option after this year. I still think he's solid enough if he stays healthy to be the starting shortstop. And then I'm going to have Shedrick Long back at second. And just taking a look here at the disabled list, I'm going to have Almora and Long back pretty soon. I still think I'm almost ready to just go with what I have offensively. I know that might sound crazy, but I think Taylor Trammell developed into a really good player last year. Cam Gibson has been solid the last 2 years. I think he's going to be good enough to run out there again. And then, you know, if Almora's healthy, gives you good defense at center. I do like the way our offense is looking, and I'll probably play around with it and see at the very most there might be a platoon or bench type player, utility player I might pick up if it's somebody strong, either in free agency or the Rule 5 draft. But I've got Trevor Cad, who's I'm going to give him some time in spring training, and this guy he is one of my better prospects, and offensively, if he develops the way he should, then he's going to be, you know, great offensive player. So he might be ready to go at least for a bench role next year as well. Let me see if there's anybody else I'm missing offensively. Justin Bellinger, might take a look at him in spring training as well. So it's just coming down once again to, I think, to the pitching. I've got to somehow find a way to get a good one or two starter in that rotation. And I've got some great prospects coming up. O'Valley is a former first-round pick. He's still got some upside. He's going to be starting out at Pensacola in Double-A next year. I don't know. I think this team is still in a good spot. But I'm kind of rambling here. But I want to go ahead and get started on some free agency and see what we got out there. And I think the first thing I'm going to look at is the starters. And we got Syndergaard, and $37 million. He's been really healthy for the most part in this playthrough. So I started in the 2018 season. 29 or more starts every year. Led the league in ERA a couple times. 3 times led the league in wins above replacement. But even though he's a 5-star, I just $37 million. I just I mean, I know he's probably gonna want. Yeah, he's wanting a really long-term contract on top of that. So I'm not gonna do that. But let's see, we got Chris Archer behind him, another one, $28 million, and he's had a pretty decent run the last few years, but he's getting up there in age. 33, he'll be 30. Well, he just turned 33, but he's a 3.5-star overall. And let's see, he's a mid-rotation or better, probably starter. But my guess is he's wanting a long-term as well. And Salazar, the thing that scares me about Salazar is that movement and control. He gave up 43 home runs in 2019 in this playthrough. ERA has been pretty high. It's just not the ratings that he have. They're a little bit too scary for me. I don't think he's going to put up the kind of years that he was throwing in Cleveland, like in 2018 or in real life in Cleveland. His ratings are just a little bit too off, I think, in this playthrough. And then Brian Mitchell. Slim pickings here. I mean, he's coming off a pretty decent year with San Diego. He's been healthy for the most part the last. Well, I have to take that back. He missed most of 2020 to injury. And then Frankie Montas. He's a borderline starter, though. I don't like his stamina. Got some pretty good individual ratings, but 2 solid pitches. He needs that third pitch to really, I think, before I would consider him good enough to be in that starting rotation. So, dang. It seems like every time I have a high draft pick or a lot of money to spend in free agency, there's just nothing out there. I'm seeing a lot of guys who wouldn't really be all that better than what I have. I mean, unless I just really gave Syndergaard went with Syndergaard. I wonder if let me see if I offered him a 4-year contract at I'm just gonna throw something out here just to do it. So 28 million player option. Let's see what he says. Man, he really wants that long term. That's just too much money for me to tie up into one player. I'm way too conservative, and in the market that I'm in too. If I was with the Yankees, for instance, and had their budget, might consider it. It might be an easier choice to make anyway. But tying up that much money, that's 11 million more than I was giving Votto, and that contract was really hurting Cincinnati. So I'm not feeling too good about what I've got out there for pitching wise. Let me see if Archer would go. Nah, man, he is really wanting way too much money, I think, for the kind of pitcher that he is. So let me start looking at the relievers. I'm not really looking for a closer. I really just looking for somebody like Archie Bradley here. I like kind of like his overall numbers there. Gives you quite a bit of a lot of innings. And if I were just looking at the closers, there's some good. Britton is out there, Chapman's out there, Jansen is out there. But I'm okay with Green, like I say, so I don't really need to do that. But let me see. I do like Bradley here. I'm going to see if I can get him for 3 years. That's fine with me. I like that. About $4 million a year. And that'll replace somebody like Maciel or Hanian, for instance. So, man. So if Alcantara, who looked good in the playoffs, if he develops, if Castillo, I don't expect at this point he's going to develop much further, but Drake Fellows is a rookie. He's got some potential. Molly, Weaver. I mean, it's possible I could get what I needed from that starting rotation, but it's not the best. It's not the best I've seen. So let me go back to free agency, and once again, I'm going to just looking at the relievers. So Archie Bradley, Colomb was someone who was a bust for me last year. Expected him to be quite a bit better than he turned out to be. Blake Parker, don't like his movement, but he's got or his personality ratings. How about Strope? I wouldn't mind having another lefty to kind of and Will Smith, who was another guy for Cincinnati, didn't have that great of a year for us. Rex Brothers, I feel like there ought to be a little bit better choices here, but just not really seeing it. So Jake McGee. He looks pretty good against lefties. Let me see. Now, if I could sign him for 1 year. And he would take 1 year. Let me see if he would go, say, 2.8. All right. So that'd help a little bit. He's 35. I mean, I don't expect to get too much from him, but so not much going on. I know. I just don't feel like if I look at the let's look at first base, for instance, and see what's out there. I mean, we got Freddie Freeman, Josh Bell, Abreu, who still wants to be in the starting lineup. Abreu might be somebody to consider as like a platoon situation if Ramirez doesn't pan out. But I've got a really good feeling about this Ramirez. I think he is going to pan out. And I've got Bellinger in the minors if I do need someone to. All right, so I guess let me take a look at maybe center field just to see if there's somebody out there that I might want to give a chance. I mean, Christian Yelich, he's mainly a left fielder. Billy Hamilton. It's tempting to bring this guy back and then give him a platoon or a utility role on the team. Inciarte for Atlanta. He's just a 2-star rated player at this point. It's kind of a surprise. But I've got Trevor Cadd, and I think Cadd at this point in his development is about as good as Inciarte would be. So I guess I'm going to go with what I have. I know that's not what I expected at this point, but there's not enough pitching out there, I don't think, to bankrupt the team for. And I don't know, maybe if we stay healthy, we got some guys who are set to develop a little bit better. I mean, we could repeat what we did last year. We got a trade proposal here from Arizona. Evan White, pretty good looking first baseman. Luke Weaver. I don't know. As good as this guy might be, I don't want to lose Weaver. I think Weaver has a chance. His contract is not that. It's not that high end. If he develops into a solid, maybe a 3-star pitcher, even if he's a 4th or 5th starter, I think I'm getting my money's worth out of him. So I'm not gonna do that. So now we're gonna look at the Hall of Fame voting, and that might be all I covered this episode. Hopefully this one wasn't too boring for you, but I'm kind of shocked that had all that money to play with and not much out there. So we got Bobby Abreu. I've been voting this guy every time he comes up. I try to vote for him in all my playthroughs. I'm continuing that, and that's just me being a big Phillies fan, I know. So we got AJ Burnett, first year for him. He had a pretty good run there. Wound up 164 wins, 2,500 plus strikeouts. Pretty decent career. Carl Crawford fell short of 2,000 hits, 480 stolen bases though. Pretty good career for him. Tavio Detel, Scott Erickson, first-year player, 142 wins. Still not first ballot potential. Prince Fielder, Jason Giambi, Ryan Howard had a sensational run in that, 2005 through 2011 maybe, and then that was pretty much it for him. But man, he had a great run. Was a big reason why those Phillies teams of the late 2000s made it to the World Series so much and won, actually. Tim Hudson, 222 wins. I think that's pretty impressive. But his other numbers not that great. Jeff Kent. Jeff Kent is really, I think, close to the numbers. I'm gonna vote for him. I know he's probably not gonna get it, but I think his numbers are fairly close to Braves, except for batting average. So we got Dave LaRoche. That's crazy. Ted Lilly. Don't remember him much. Kalosh. Matt Morris. And Joe Nathan finished with 377 saves. Darren Oliver. And then there's, of course, David Ortiz. He's probably going to be a first ballot Hall of Fame. Papelbon, not yet. Chan-Ho Park. Brzezinski, Ramirez, Manny Ramirez. Man, A-Rod. I think it's hard to go against those numbers. Rollins, I'm going to vote for Rollins as well because he meant so much to that Phillies team. He did win the MVP at least once. Kurt Schilling. Yeah, I guess you can vote for Schilling there. Sheffield, another guy that I always kind of vote for. Tejada. He had a good career. Billy Wagner. Man, he's a good closer. Andy Wolf, Michael Young. Michael Young finished with 2,375 hits and a 300 average. It's not bad, but I think that's pretty much the way I'll go. 7 guys. There are a few on there that I could have voted for, but we'll see how that plays out. But what I'm going to do is finish out the rest of the off-season here. I'll probably go through the winter meetings, Rule 5 draft, see if we pick up anybody there, and come back for spring training and see if we can repeat with what we have, because I don't really think there's going to be too many big signings for us this offseason. Just not anything out there that I think is worth just bankrupting the team for. I know some people might think DeGrom is worth bankrupting the team for, but I just don't want to give a pitcher close to $40 million. I think that's too much of a gamble, especially with injuries and things and how that usually plays out. So let's... So Jake McGee likes my offer. And we got a trade proposal from Cleveland, a catcher. So Luke Weaver's getting some interest in the offseason. And I'm going to have to keep him because I'm going to have to rely on him the way it's looking now with no other pitchers out there available. But as always, thanks for watching, and I'll catch you up next episode. Will probably be spring training of that 2022 season, and hopefully this is going to be it, the year that we make it to the World Series, maybe even win it. But thanks for watching. I'll see you next episode.